On today's show, Victoria is joined by Bruno Palozzi, a serial entrepreneur whose passion and hard work have guided him throughout his career. Stay tuned to hear Bruno's insights as the founder and CEO of SuccessByEmail.com.
We are here with Bruno Palozzi, founder and CEO of SuccessByEmail.com.
Thank you, Victoria. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Bruno. So, first question, what does your company do?
Well, SuccessByEmail.com is a email marketing system. It's a platform, software as a service platform, utilized by organizations of various sizes all over the world. So we've got customers really that subscribe to our service from virtually every single continent and almost every single country. And they utilize our platform to manage their email lists along with other data, stay in compliance with various privacy laws, and of course distribute their messages to their opt-in lists. So lists for which they've received permission to send to the respective recipients. What makes Success by Email a very valuable platform is that not only do we allow for mass volume email sending to mass lists, but we also measure statistics along the way. So things like how many opens there have been for a particular email message that you've sent, how many links have been clicked or URLs have been clicked, who the people clicking and opening are. And then with all of this combination of statistics that are being collected, then the marketer can then remarket to those lists based on or recipient performance.
So Bruno, where did the idea come from for Success by Email?
That's a great question. And necessity is really the mother of invention. And so at the time, going back to the mid-2000s, I had started another company. And that company was called iWeddings.com, which we grew to be one of Canada's largest wedding portals. So users could come on to the site and plan their wedding from beginning to end, find vendors, etc. What we found was that communicating with the people subscribing was very difficult. We were collecting emails, but it was hard to basically be able to market to 18, 19,000, 100,000 people. We had over 240,000 vendors listed in our database alone. So sending communication by mail was not practical because it was too expensive as a startup, and we didn't have that kind of funding at the time, and especially to do it on a regular basis just was not practical. So that was when I thought, email would probably be the best way to do it, but how do we best collect the email so I'm not constantly managing every single email that goes inside? How do we distribute this amount of volume of email without bringing down servers and sending through Outlook? We're not exactly equipped to send that kind of volume. So I decided that if I ever could sell iWeddings.com and get some money, that might be an interesting business to get into.
To start up, yeah.
And so that's in fact what I did. I did end up selling iWeddings.com, and almost directly afterwards, we decided to actually start building an email marketing system. At the time, it was called SaveAStamp.com, and then it's since been rebranded to SuccessByEmail.com.
So how would you say your personal experience, education, and interests help you with your business?
Well, I've got 2 degrees. One in psychology, where I primarily focused on graphical user interface design and user experience. So at the time, web technologies were just emerging.
Right.
Interactive technologies were sort of coming to be. I thought that if we are going to be using computer systems then and interfaces, that we should probably understand the human condition and best design applications to sort of reflect how we would interact with technology. And my second degree is in mass communication, which now my program is offered through the computer science program at York University. That's where I dealt with emerging technologies and the development of applications, so interactive technologies. So basically, I was a computer programmer.
Right. Okay. All right. How would you say your business has changed or evolved from the initial idea?
Well, the premise of the initial idea is still very relevant today. Obviously, being able to collect mass amounts of data
Right.
and be able to distribute mass amounts of email as a result of them. However, various marketing methods and methodologies have evolved over the years. There's also been a great importance placed on and necessity for spam laws and compliance.
Right. Yeah.
So we had to work legal frameworks into our applications, and that actually makes us very attractive to our customers because it helps them comply with their local privacy laws and spam laws. Also, as our business has grown and we've had to distribute more and more email, then we've also had to technological hurdles and challenges that basically we had to overcome.
Right.
When we first started the business, volumes weren't all that high, and email marketing was a relatively new thing. As people started to get success and the marketing method became more popular, then we also had to improve our technology from a back-end perspective, from an infrastructure perspective,
Right.
as well as from a software perspective in order to scale with the need.
Right. Okay. So in the startup phase of successbyemail.com, did you require external investment, or how was that situation like for you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we being the company, but it's basically me, at the time, took the funds, the proceeds from a previous sale,
Right.
and put that towards the development of the platform. So that meant that we hired developers, and those funds went into funding the development of the platform. I knew that I had a need for this system. So if I had a need for this system, I was quite confident that many other people and many other organizations had a need for a similar system.
Right.
And I proved myself to be correct in this over the years.
Okay. So what was the business plan? Did you develop one, or going into this website?
There wasn't a specific business plan per se, other than the fact that I knew that there was a huge need for email marketing, simply because I knew I had that need.
Right.
And I knew that there wasn't much out there in terms of competitors at the time, especially Canadian competitors. And I knew that if I could be one of the first people out there with a good product at a good price, I could capitalize upon that and build a business around that. And I'm very product focused. And so I knew that if I built a good product, that customers would be signing up and ultimately producing revenue, and the company continues to produce phenomenal revenue even to this day.
Okay. Was that would you say that was the same for when you started iWeddings.com, or?
No, it's not. iWeddings.com, actually, we did raise some external funding.
Okay.
And at that time, there was some real roller coaster. It was really the wild, wild west of the internet.
Right.
It was
in
the early 2000s. People were investing in .com companies.
Right.
And so we sort of tried to garner investment based on that, and it worked. We got it, but we found that, of course, you always had to satisfy investors along the way, hit targets, and we never knew where the business was fully headed. It was really quite new. So in that business, I realized, wow, I don't necessarily want outside investment if I can fund it myself.
I see. Okay.
And having been down that road with
Right.
iWeddings, where of course we were one of the fortunate few that were able to sell the company, pull a profit, pay back all the investors, and everybody made some money. So I took those funds, self-funded Success by Email,
Wow.
and it's been running profitably ever since.
Nice. So what would you say are the qualities or characteristics you believe are important to be a successful entrepreneur?
There are a few. The first, I believe, probably the most important one, is passion. You know what? It doesn't matter what you do, but if you're passionate about it, you're going to succeed. You're going to be great at it by the very default fact that you're passionate. You want to live, eat, sleep, and breathe it. In my case, it's all about data and efficiency, and that's something I've always loved, and that just translated through to email. And the fact that that I can make a pretty good living from it,
All the better.
makes it all that much sweeter, I suppose.
Right.
So beyond passion, every entrepreneur, especially in the early stages, don't have a lot of money when you're trying to really build a base, a revenue, and everything else. Most entrepreneurs need to wear multiple hats.
Right.
So versatility, being able to get into the trenches when you need to, be a good leader, is obviously very important, especially when you've got staff, and keeping them inspired and keeping them motivated
Right.
onto the project. Of course, naturally doing your best to try to produce the best product or service that you're trying to sell. And then, of course, I cannot forget sales.
Right.
You've got to be
Right.
driven.
So what would you say was your greatest challenge since starting the business and how you overcame it?
I see challenges coming from a few fronts. One of them are, internal forces, and then you have external forces. So on the internal forces, I've sort of put technology and staffing inside of there, overall direction of a business and general management. So whenever you deal with people, you've got to, once again, keep them focused, keep them motivated, and know exactly which way the company is pointing, where you feel the opportunities are, and building a product that will meet those challenges and meet those needs. Because ultimately, if you don't plan correctly and set your goals, then it's very easy for a company to just not become relevant anymore.
Right.
And ultimately fade away, which happens with many companies.
Right.
And then you've got external challenges. And on the external side, you've always got competition. So competition, especially in this industry, has become quite stiff. There's also a very huge market. Do regularly take customers away from these platforms due to certain functionality that we offer and service that we offer.
Interesting. Nice.
So the combination of internal and external forces is always something that one must stay abreast of.
So Bruno, if you can give advice to a young entrepreneur or just someone starting a business, say like a first-time entrepreneur, what would it be?
One of my early mentors once said to me, there's only one thing you need to know when running a business. And I said, oh, really? Well, what is that?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, cash flow. I'm like, oh, cash flow. Okay, I've only got to worry about one thing. Well, when you really sit down and actually try to put that concept in place, you realize that cash flow is about everything.
Right, yeah.
That means controlling your costs. That means also making sure that there's more money coming in than there is going out. The number one thing I would say is, as much as you've got a great idea and lots of enthusiasm, you can't forget about the cold hard dollars, and got to make sure that there's more coming in than there is going out. And if you've got more going out than there is coming in, then you better have some financing and a backup plan in place with clear goals on when you will stop burning and start earning.
Right. Passion can only take you so far, I guess.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So where do you hope to see Success by Email in 5 years?
Well, likely, it's Success by Email is actually one of those great businesses that produces a fair amount of income with a minimal amount of effort.
Right. Okay.
But that being said, we do spend quite a bit of time and effort still in development, in active development. That being said, it's one of those businesses that I probably can continue to run for 5 years and beyond. But it's also one of those businesses that are likely to be acquired. So ultimately, my exit plan is to sell the company.
Would that be in the next 5 years, or?
I'm still fairly young.
Okay.
So still having a lot of fun with it, but I certainly see there's we are currently in the middle of expanding the platform, where we are building in other revenue streams, including surveys, including CRM. We're expanding our targeted marketing. We're tying into other platforms. We continue to innovate and move with the trends, and to be relevant.
Okay. So how do you market your business? What's your main way of connecting to potential customers?
Well, that's another great question. So all of our marketing is basically online, and that's primarily through SEO, and we also do some paid advertising. However, interesting enough, most of our business and most of our leads tends to come by use of our application.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Well, customers come onto our site, subscribe to our service, and they send out emails. Then people get those emails, and then they say, well, where is this email coming from? It's coming from an email marketing system.
Right.
Then once they start investigating which email marketing system by looking at the URLs, they say, oh, it's successbyemail.com. And then they come on and they subscribe online, and and we grow that way. So interesting enough, we don't have any outside salespeople, and we rely purely on the web and Google marketing to drive inbound sales. And we're actually, every single month, we're signing up, plenty of new customers purely on this method. And because it's software as a service, and it's a platform, once they sign up and they start utilizing the system, it's the same system for everybody.
Right.
So our internal sales and our customer service management team deal with those customers and inquiries and get them onboarded. But really, once they are up and going on the system, they largely utilize it with very little customer service.
Right. So interesting. So Bruno, I know that you're a serial entrepreneur and you have opened multiple businesses.
Yeah.
Over the course of, I guess, your career in these businesses, what would you say was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that?
I've been pretty fortunate. Financially, we've always done very well, thankfully. But you know what? Staffing. Even though we've had most of the people that we hire and that we keep stay with us for really long periods of time, so we have great retention, but finding great people and attracting great people is very tough. Sometimes when we're busy, we may get drop off from people, and I always feel really bad about that. So I would probably say that's probably been the biggest failure from a business perspective. Sometimes with respect to successbyemail.com, the one thing I really regret is not having invested more earlier in the game.
Okay.
Earlier in around the 2010 range, just because things were starting to boom. Didn't know exactly, we were very comfortable.
Right.
But I realized, looking back now, if I would have put more time, effort, and funds towards the platform and getting it up faster, and keeping up with the trends a little bit more, we could very well have been that MailChimp or that Constant Contact.
Right, okay.
Because we were there in around the same time they were there. And if you look at the platforms, the functionalities are still all largely the same between all of us. But what they did was they raised the big dollars, and then we're able to go out there and attract more customers.
I see. Okay. So what's one thing you wish you knew before you started successbyemail.com?
How much work it would be.
Yeah.
I think that also, I think that's a really good question. I mean, if one truly knew how much time, effort, thinking, begging
right.
one would need to do to get an idea off the ground and make it a reality, most people would probably just never start.
Not start a business?
So,
yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be a little bit naive and a little bit crazy, and in order to get things going, because if you truly knew how much work would be involved, most people just would say forget it.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot.
Agreed.
Just easier go to work a 9-to-5 job and make a good salary. As an entrepreneur, you never know when that next meal will come, when that next check will come in. Whether the first check will ever come in. You may spend hundreds of thousands of dollars developing something without any guarantee that you're going to ever make any money back.
That's true. Yeah.
Or whether you're going to hit it big. I mean, it's the amount, you get out what you put in.
Right.
And, doing the research up front and and making little mini tests along the way to test the market to see if there is a market there is something that's very, very important. And I feel that's something that I wish I would have known a little bit more.
Right.
But but to some degree, I'm sort of glad that I didn't.
You didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I never thought of it that way. So lastly, I know we talked about how saturated the market has become.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, as a founder and CEO, what do you think differentiates your platform versus the competition?
The way I always explain Success by Email is that we're an enterprise class system at a mid-market price.
Oh, okay.
And that sort of sums it up, where the users of our system are primarily mid to large size companies that have multiple users in various departments or sub-organizations and tend to send a lot of email. We send over 500 million emails a month, so
Wow.
over 500 million emails a month. That's a lot of email. When you compare our product against other products like MailChimp, Constant Contact, etc., the costs tend to be much higher once you go down that road.
Right.
And they don't all offer the enterprise solutions. So multiple users, multiple accounts, and then one unified billing cycle. And we also have some very good support. Our support actually is one of the differentiating features as well, where, for example, MailChimp, you can't get on the phone and speak to somebody and ask them a question, or you need assistance in doing something. It's email support.
So, like, just less accessible.
Mm-hmm. And so we have email marketing professionals who basically will man the phone and answer your question and help you through your challenges or your needs as you require.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. Okay, so Bruno, thank you so much. It's been really nice listening to you speak of your business and entrepreneurship, and I thank you again for this interview.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you for listening to episode 7 of Making Waves, and thank you to Bruno Palozzi for sharing his wisdom and experiences with us. Tune in next week for another interview with an entrepreneur who's making waves in their field.